eels in 3 chapters. Chapter 1, not eels. Chapter 2 is some eels. Chapter 3 is some more eels. Be warned, it gets a little bit Eurocentric in the middle.
Oh, more of your lovely drawings.
Honourable mentions of some not...
Eels.
Thank you. Some not eels.
Ooh.
Number 1, electric eels. Not in fact eels, actually a kind of knife fish. They can use electricity to locate and stun prey. They can generate up to 600 volts.
Wow.
And because we're a scientifically current show, they discovered last year that there are actually 3 separate species. They thought there were just one. Turns out there's 3.
So there's 3 different species of eel that can stun prey with 600 volts.
I think 600 volts might be the most powerful one.
Up to 600 volts.
How many volts can a Pikachu go?
More.
It
Could it, knock out a person?
can
Just hurt them?
damage a person. It can hurt them.
Right.
So it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
It can stun you. They were definitely instrumental in the discovery and harnessing of electric eels.
Wow, really?
Which is fun. Yeah.
That is awesome. Can you imagine being the first people, what is this? Pause. What's going on here? The same thing coming off this fish is, I can harness this to do other stuff? What?
Yeah, turn lights on. Incredible.
Hey, why are we talking about electric eels if they're not fucking eels?
Good point.
Well, yeah, so we're going to have to run fairly quickly because I've got lots of wild and wacky creatures to show you. Number 2 is the lamprey. Lamprey are one of 2, so them and hagfish are one of 2 vertebrates that don't have either jaws or pairs of limbs because they split off from the vertebrate evolutionary tree before the development of those. So they have terrifying sucker mouths with which they hang on to and drink the blood of prey. We descended from something pretty similar, so we could have looked like this.
Ooh.
If you want.
You saying you don't look like that?
Before I had braces, maybe. On the subject of hagfish, welcome the slime eel. Again, not an eel. They produce incredible quantities of slime to evade prey or just generally when they're stressed. You may have seen images of a traffic accident caused by transporting hagfish that just slimed everywhere.
I have seen.
All over the road.
Incredible. And it was an incredible effort to clean up the road afterwards because they just kept sliming and sliming everywhere.
But to get the slime off themselves, they tie themselves in knots and then they slip through the knots. They're honestly pretty cool.
So they produce so much slime that they have to escape their own slime. It's a problem for them.
Yeah, because it gets in their gills, which is part
Right.
of what makes it a good defense mechanism.
That would be a problem. That would.
So they're cleaning themselves off by rubbing its body through the hole that it's created and knotting itself off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, some eels. So Freud actually spent the early part of his career trying and failing to find the reproductive organs of European eels. There were a bunch of different kinds of eel in Europe and
Obsessed.
they just couldn't. It was such a mystery for thousands of years how they reproduced. Aristotle thought they auto-generated out of the mud because they couldn't. They'd never seen them mating or anything. They just didn't know how. But it turns out that actually these different species of eel are different parts in the life cycle of a single species of extremely long-lived eel. They can live up to 88 years, the European species.
Wow.
So they breed by the Sargasso Sea, and then in different stages of their life, they live either in saltwater or in freshwater, between being yellow eel here, here. And being a silver eel is like 20 years.
Wow.
But they live in a different place in each of these stages. There's an American species that split off from this species when Panama rose out of the sea, but actually have very similar... like they still breed in the same place, and so sometimes they breed together, and because the Americans mature earlier and die younger, when they breed together, the ones that are like mixed mature too early to reach Europe, and they end up somewhere in like Iceland. So,
Also, they don't have socialised healthcare, and so that's why they die young as well.
yeah.
But they can live up to 88 years. Eels.
Yeah, and the Americans live up to like 43 years
That's
or something.
amazing.
This kind of eel that like breeds in a very specific colony in the ocean but spends most of its life in fresh water, that like it's not just the Americans and the Europeans. In New Zealand they've got some that are like 6 to 8 foot long. In Japan they've been raising them but not breeding them for a long time. They have not managed to get them to breed. They've tried to do some stuff. It's not worked. British eels, the Anglo-centric portion of the presentation. This is absolutely adorable eel. Look at his face. Versus famous enemy of the eel, the heron. In the lines in a medieval manuscript. People used to pay rent in eels.
Whoa.
In the Doomsday Book, there's more records of people paying rent in eels than there are of people paying rent in grain.
Wow.
And actually, like, this is numbers of rental agreements in eels, but this is like massive underestimate because they were generally recorded at the start and at the end of a contract, and there could be decades in between.
That's incredible because, like, I know that eels are like something that exists in Britain, but I don't really ever think of eels.
Yeah.
They're never in my mind, but they're really common in the UK wildlife, right?
They've lost like 90 to 98% of their population in the last like century.
Wow.
But yeah,
that would be why, because I've lived
used
in the
to
last
be-
century.
Yeah. They used to be a very, very common food, especially because you could like smoke them and preserve them.
Yeah, well, jellied eels, isn't it? That's a proper like Cockney geezer.
Yeah.
Let's go down to the pub and have some jellied eels.
And you could pay rent in them. Useful. Useful things. Okay, that to show that eels are not just important to British people, here's some stamps from all over the world. Malaysia, Japan, Czechoslovakia, as it was, I guess.
I'm seeing lots of Ascension Island stamps and remembering that the UK government is desperate to make a plan to send refugees to Ascension Island rather than, fulfill their international responsibility.
Some more eels from it. So non-anguillid might be slightly wrong.
What does anguillid
because anguillid is like, so those ones that live in fresh water but breed in salt water. They're like, but all eels are like anguillidae, and then they're like anguillidae or something. So they're like the Homo sapiens sapiens of the eel world, you know. Here's the ribbon eel. That's this one. I couldn't find a non-copyright picture of the ribbon eel looking like a ribbon, but they really, really do. Google it. Like in Olympic competition.
It's very happy. Big smiley face.
Yeah. What a treat. Here's a snowflake eel.
Fucking
Don't have much to
snowflakes.
say about
Always
that.
complaining about and cancelling and stuff.
Yeah.
Complaining just because you want to feed them eels and they don't want to eat eels. And you're like, it's jellied eel, it's great. And they're like, no, that's gross. Snowflakes.
No, proper snowflakes.
pelican eel.
Wow.
Absolutely wild.
Wow.
So their mouths can get big like a snake, but like the rest of their body is just thin. They think they probably filter feed like a whale.
Yeah, it looks like a whale.
I was
like,
thinking that, yeah.
Nat, this is your opportunity to talk about the pelican smile.
Flamingos.
Oh, flamingo smile. That's the
Yeah,
one
how
I'm
they...
thinking of.
because they feed upside down, they developed like a big... They developed it so their bottom jaw was the fixed jaw that would stay where it was and was big and chunky, and the top bit would just like flap here, and it's this like really cool thing where the convergent evolution of like whales and birds and this fucking eel where all their mouths look the same because they're kind of doing the same job with them.
Anyway, that was a book that Nat borrowed from her biology
Many
teacher
years
and
ago
never
and
gave
have
back.
forgotten.
You never gave it back?
No.
Oh, that's so naughty.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can continue to be friends with you.
No, it was
Oh, Nat,
It was-
I'm going to cut this part out.
a little book of
I don't want more
Mr.
people
Ward.
abandoning you.
If you see this, I'm sorry. I enjoyed the book a lot. It was a book of Stephen Jay Gould essays about evolution.
Yeah. Mr. Ward, if you see this, I hope you appreciate us trying. I don't know if you can see, by the way, but right on the tip here is where its eye is.
What?
I've got another picture
Oh
right
my
on the
gosh.
tip.
Oh,
It's like someone's put googly eyes on a fucking fish.
And
Oh, fuck.
and finally, the fangtooth moray.
Wow, beautiful.
Wow.
Take me to the ball.
That's my presentation on eels.
Those nostrils.
Non-eels.
Oh, dear.
I was worried for a little while about making a presentation on eels. I thought, is there enough content about eels? And then I remembered,
They all look fucking
Look at
stupid.
pictures of
That's what's good about them.
yeah,
This one looks like he's got a head full of...
incredible.
Do you know what it looks like? Do you know when you get those like screwdriver sets where you the replaceable heads?
Yeah.
It looks like he's got two of those on his drawer, and he's just like, "Oh, this is a Phillips number 2."
That is what it looks like.
It just makes me think so much though about like how, you know, there's so much variation among mammals, and mammals are what we spend most of our time looking and thinking about, or even if it's not just mammals, like land animals. And then there's so much innovation under the sea. We just don't give it any of the attention that it deserves.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the sun can't get to the bottom of the sea, and that's why they're all ugly. They don't need. They don't see themselves in mirrors.
need it.
Oh, the pelican eel, by the way, I didn't mention, is like deep sea.
That makes sense. That's the only
Deep
place
sea eel.
where
That's
something
the
like
only place
that
you can-
could exist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lamprey have killed, I mean, they're not eels. They've killed a king in the sense that he ate too many of them and then died afterwards.
Nice one.